I've been working right next to guys that'll just blow my doors off.
Oh, sure.
Like, I can't keep up with them.
Sure you will.
You know? It's just like, I look at them and they're going and they make me tired.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, you'll often see your replacement walk in a day or two ahead.
You'll greet him.
Right.
You'll shake his hand.
Maybe show him some of your job duties.
Yeah,
I drove by a construction site the other day and heard 37 curse words in 60 seconds, and I thought to myself, that's going to be a well-made building.
Yep.
That sums it up, right?
Yep.
Can't believe it's the 6th of January. Last year got away from us. Welcome, everybody, to the iShower After Work podcast for all things trades and trades related. John and I are here in the job trailer again on a Saturday double bubble overtime episode, which seems to be the case. How are you today, John?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you doing?
Not bad. Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year.
Yes, we made it to 2024. What do you think the odds are it's a bigger shit show than last year, pal?
100%.
100%.
100%. Dude, it's an election year.
I forgot. It's an election
Definitely going to be a
year.
shit show.
See, as a permanent resident but non-citizen of this country, I don't vote because I'm not supposed to. I know I could probably get away with it. I forget about those things. I buried my head in the sand a little bit.
Yeah, no, dude, I kind of envy you on that one.
Don't get me wrong. I would certainly like to be involved in the governance of the country that I live in, especially the way things have gone these last, let's say, 6, 8, 20 years. But,
Yeah.
man, it's the Wild West out there.
Yeah, it's going to be a bigger shit show than it was last year.
I can only assume that's going to be a progressive thing for the next few years at least.
Yeah, probably. Without getting in politics on this podcast, it definitely will be.
Fortunately, we have the ability not to do that. Like, we can just talk shit for a second, move on, which is probably what we're doing right now.
Yeah, they all just need to be fired.
Dude, like you say, we're not a political podcast, but from the outside perspective, me just peeking in over the wall, no joke intended there, or maybe intended, it sure seems like it's a real train wreck.
Well, and we're not going to dive too deep, but I do want to say, if you and I performed like they do in our jobs, we'd be fired.
Fired. Walk me right out the door.
Yeah. Have a good day.
Yeah. No explanation as to why. It's been real great, but not really. Kick rocks. For sure we would.
Yep.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate part about some of this, that there's some long-term people in some of these positions that are
Fucking senile.
Dude, again, not a political podcast. I'm going to say 2 words and then I'm going to leave my end of it alone. Term limits. That's all I'm saying, kids. If you can vote and make change within this country, see what you can do about changing that, because that's a big, big problem.
Yep. Attaboy.
So I'll leave it at that.
What did you want to talk about today?
So we have said in the past, buddy, and we've tried to be real forthright about it, that we're here for everybody, union and non-union. This is for the trades. We're not a union podcast. We're not a non-union podcast.
100%.
However, we've been doing a few of these now, and I thought maybe it was time to at least point out the fact that there is some differences between union and non-union, and I thought maybe we'd have a chat about that today.
I'd love to.
What do you think?
Yeah.
So
Why not?
you're in a great position because, unlike me, you have worked on both sides of the coin here.
Absolutely.
And we've talked about it briefly in some other episodes. Specifically safety, I think it came up quite a bit in the safety one there.
Yep, it sure did.
Do you feel that things have been better for you since you've switched over to the union side? What differences have you seen? Have you seen anything that were benefits on the other side? Give me your perspective. Take some time here.
Wow, why do I feel like I'm going to do a lot of talking in this episode?
Just to get us going here, because you have a perspective I don't have.
Yeah, I have seen the ups of both sides. At the end of the day, as a union electrician, as a non-union electrician, we're doing the same work. We're doing the exact same job.
Correct. Day
in and day out. It doesn't matter, right? But there are definite differences. Like the one thing that really surprises me the most is what I liked about the non-union, right? It's some guys call it merit-based. Right?
Sure.
I like that. When
we're going to get into that a little bit later. Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
I like the fact that, you know what, you getting a pay raise and doing what you need to do and excelling, getting additional benefits, moving up in a company, doing that. I like it being merit-based. I like it showing that you do your job, you do it well, you do it professionally. You're good. That's the one downfall I do see with union side. Going through the apprenticeship, we get reviews.
Certainly.
Every apprentice gets a review every 6 months, how they're doing, how, blah, blah, blah. What do they need to work on? What are their strengths, weaknesses? It's a whole form that we have to fill out, right? That stops as soon as you become a journeyman.
Correct.
There's no reviews. There's nothing keeping a guy honest, if you want to use the term word. That's a strong word, but like keeping them motivated to keep doing a professional job. There's nothing as far as that goes. That stops.
Yeah, the motivation on our side does seem to be your own personal work ethic. And you're right. There are certainly some people whose work ethic is stronger than others. And I mean, obviously what you're saying, merit-based, you could, as someone who excels, if you excel in your job, your trade, certainly you could go in and negotiate, as you do with a lot of other places, non-union, a better pay scale or extra benefits or maybe a couple extra weeks. Like, I get what you're saying, because there are certainly people, and this isn't just trades, and this isn't just union versus non-union. You're going to get people who work harder than others, who are making the same pay for things. I couldn't agree more that that's one that sticks with me as well. I'm torn because I like the fact that everyone is in it together as well. I like both these things. I like the group negotiation togetherness of the trade, but the drawback is, it can be a drawback, what you're saying, that if you or I maybe who work hard versus somebody who just coasts through their day, and we're all on the same pay scale.
Yep. And I've seen it.
Oh yeah, I see it all the time, right? Like less and less so where I'm obviously not working with people day to day anymore. But yeah, that's an excellent point, man. Can you, obviously you've got things that you could say that are benefits to the union because you've stayed in. So obviously you see the benefits about it, right?
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you appreciated about non-union that might have been something that you'd like to see swing a little onto the union side other than that?
I don't know. That's hard to come off on the top of the head.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I like putting it in the spot, buddy.
But I mean, no, that's good. That's a fantastic question, my man. Because when it comes to the non-union, I really did like the ability to grow inside of a company.
Based on performance.
Based on just being able to, because there's a lot of factors, right? It's not just based on performance. It's based on communication skills. It's based on management skills.
Certainly.
Right? Not just solely being a good performing, hardworking person.
Right.
I would like to see that come into the union a little bit more. Because the contractors in the union, since they are held to a contract, right, negotiated price for us for our labor, they have the ability, and they do, like, that's what you get. Like, right. You ain't, no, you're not growing. You're not. This is what you get. Now, some guys, some outfits kind of loosen up a little bit, and they're willing to pay, as we call it, foreman scale.
Yeah, there's some fudge factors depending on the local you're in or whatever, right? Yeah.
Right. And I think that's probably the closest that they'll get to that.
It certainly seems that way to me. I've heard that there are companies out there that will occasionally give a foreman or a GF or somebody a little hand wash, a little kickback extra for doing a good job in a project that comes way in under budget or something, right?
Yeah.
But that's not guaranteed. It's not something that's part of your job contract, anything like that. So I mean, those things are probably few and far between, and it's just a situational bonus,
right,
for lack of a better word, right? But yeah, I like that you point that out, because I'm a big pro-union guy. I'm not knocking on non-union. I'm glad people can find work out there. And if that's what you prefer, we're going to talk about some of the different reasons here. But I do see someone who doesn't work as hard as me occasionally, who I find it frustrating that we're on the same pay scale sometimes.
Yeah, and I've been on the other side of that too. Like, look, I'll never say that I'm the fastest bullet in the shelf, right? I try to be as thorough as I can. I try to do a professional job. I try to make it so nothing has to be fixed that I do. But I've been working right next to guys that'll just blow my doors off.
Oh, sure.
Like, I can't keep up with them.
Sure you will.
It's just like, I look at them and they're going and they make me tired. I'm like, dude, like, wow. Like, and then I get pissed, and not because they're outperforming me. It's because they're not getting compensated for what they're doing. That's where I get pissed at. And I've had talks with the guys. Be like, dude, you're a freaking rock star. And I'm over here, doing the best I can. And I'm nowhere close to you. Like, but you're at the same pay rate I am. And I'm not a snail's pace. I'm not crawling. I'm giving an honest 8. Right. So yeah, it pisses me off both directions.
It's good that you can be self-aware enough to realize that, right? So I was looking up some info when we was thinking about doing this episode.
Yeah.
Where do you think the United States and Canada land on the top 10 skilled labor? And other other countries don't say trade as much as we do. They say skilled labor.
Skilled labor. Okay. That's fair.
Where would you think, let's start with the States. Where do you think States falls in on the top 25 skilled labor, and how? So when I looked this up, it was based on a lot of factors. So pay scale per like the country that you lived in. So based on GDP or whatever, like the median amount that a normal person would make in their job or whatever, right?
Okay.
And it included time off and benefits, which regarded like happiness in your job, and you can spend time with your family and things like that. So it was a really encompassing thing on people working for a living, how they determined this.
Sure.
Where do you think the States falls on the top 25 list of best countries to be a skilled laborer or trade person in?
The U.S., I would say, probably falls, I'd say number 8.
8, okay. Where do you think Canada falls in the list?
I'm going to say that they're probably better than we are. I'm going to say 5.
5. All right. Top 10. All right. And again, this encompasses basically what should be your comfort day to day by having a skilled labor job, right? So all the things, benefits and vacation, all that, right? Number 1, Germany.
Really?
I was surprised as you were, man.
Wow, that's shocking.
You think about Germany as a place where, I mean, we all think of just the movies, right? Oh my God, they're driving men in the ground. Everything's terrible. You think of the Cold War.
Well, they always sound so angry.
They sound so angry all the time. I think that's probably how they're presented in shows and movies and stuff too. So yeah, we got Germany, South Korea is number 2, Japan is number 3. Not a huge surprise there.
No, not a huge surprise.
That there's a lot of skilled labor. Now, as far as quality of life, I mean, all these things can be cultural too, right?
Right.
So there could be some of that. Number 4, China. That one surprised me that was that high.
That one doesn't surprise me so much because they have such a huge industrial.
Oh, right. But the happiness factor of it, because you hear sometimes about, and I don't know if this is specifically China, but you hear about them putting up safety nets outside of some of the factories because people are throwing themselves out of the window because they don't want to make shoelaces or iPhones anymore, right?
Well, there's that.
They probably do consider some of that as skilled labor. Maybe.
So
I was a little surprised that one was as high as it was.
Okay, that's fair.
Number 5, Belgium. Don't know shit about Belgium. Looked it up. Looks like a pretty place to live. The weather seems temperate, I guess, maybe.
Sure.
So, Sweden, number 7.
I can understand that.
Sweden, number 7. I skipped by 6. The United States is number 6.
Okay.
Top 10. It's pretty good, right?
Pretty good.
And they did specifically point out that pay scale and vacation time, that was number 1 and number 2 on this list. So the States was at the high end of the pay scale per like the average median in your country.
Okay.
For what somebody makes working for a living, right?
Sure.
And number 2 with like vacation time. So that was
Sure.
pretty good. And that one was behind China again, surprisingly.
Yeah.
They make sure their people get lots of time off, I guess, right? So then Sweden is 7, Finland in 8, Canada falls into number 9. We were number 2 on the pay scale and
Okay.
number 1 on the time off one.
Sure.
Compared to the States, right?
Yep.
And then falling into the end is Singapore, which again, I don't know anything about Singapore, but I looked it up. Gigantic population. Of all the 10 on the list, they had the biggest physical number of people in skilled trades, even though their population was way less than, say, like China.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the amount of people actually working in the industry, like day to day, like us with their hands, that number was like 12% higher than anybody else.
Oh, wow.
So they have a lot of people there that are just infrastructure, building their life around people.
Sure.
So it's good to know that at least worldwide we're falling into a good spot.
Right.
Now, that encompassed everybody. But since we're talking about union versus non-union here, let me give you the first number that I came up with. And I had written down who I got this information from, which is important. Give me one sec here. Oh, yeah. So the AFL-CIO, the American Federation of Labor and all that. Right?
Yeah.
So a reputable source, someone who, if they were lying or giving misinformation, would be called out by other places, right?
Sure.
Non-union, and this is 2020, things haven't changed much since 2020 as far as income and finances and pay scale goes. Right. It's been pretty stalled the last few years. Non-union makes an average of 81% of what a union employee makes.
Yep.
4/5, just a little higher.
Yep.
Man, that's a big number.
That is a big number. But I think the difference on that is total benefit package.
Certainly that's affected into that, right?
Right. I know in our area, the non-union to union labor rates, not too far off from each other.
Pretty close here. Yeah.
Non-union is a little lower, but not substantially.
Yeah, we're in an area where it's fairly equitable here.
Yeah. I think our benefits is what changes that.
And it certainly does factor into this too. So you bring benefits up. The top 3 things that came up as far as benefits goes were the percentage of people in the union versus non-union who had a specific benefit. So as an example, people who had paid sick leave of some kind, whether it was included in your package or you weren't penalized for taking sick time or you didn't have to accrue sick time. You could just take it when you were sick. You know what I mean?
Sure.
93% of union employees had it. 75% of non-union did, which was surprisingly higher than I thought for the non-union. So I'm glad to hear there's at least companies out there that are treating their employees fairly okay.
Yep.
Healthcare, 96% of union employees have it. 69% of non-union employees have it,
Yep.
which I thought ironic because with 69, it sounds like they're getting fucked. So
on that note, chime in 2 cents on the healthcare. Because when I was non-union, I didn't carry the company's insurance because it was too expensive. Right. So the wife at the time, she was carrying insurance because she worked at the hospital.
Nice.
So I just hopped on hers.
Okay.
Because it was, like I said, unjustifiably stupidly high. Like for me, myself, it was going to cost me $600 a month just for myself, $1,200 a month for my family. That was right out of my paycheck.
That's big.
That's why, guys, that's why that number is the way that it is.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. And again, I'm going to have to lean on you for a lot of this stuff because I never worked non-union in trade, so I have no experience in it at all. But that doesn't surprise me to hear that. And and that's part of the deal with not all, but a lot of non-union shops are certainly smaller.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You can't carry a gigantic benefits program for a small little organization. Even if you have 20 or 30 employees, that's a whole big thing to do, right? What I see as one of the benefits to union on this particular topic is most unions have a fairly big number of people that are part of the union. Not always, right? But
right.
Locals, depending on the local, obviously varies. That collective agreement also includes these healthcare benefits where if you're trying to put 1,000 people, 2,000 people, you're going to get a better deal.
Yeah.
It's going to be easier to administrate. It's going to be easier to pay out for people. The benefits will be better defined.
Yep.
So, on this particular case, that seems like a real benefit to being in the union.
Yeah, I think if we look at it that way, I think you're probably 100% right. I do also believe a lot of non-union shops, and it's solely the shop's choice. I don't have a problem with them running their businesses the way that they want. But yes, there's overhead. Yes, there's expenses to run a business. And when you're looking at a construction business, you're talking a lot of capital that you need.
Ooh, I'm sure.
Trucks, tools. You have to be able to float money for projects before you get payout, blah, blah, blah. Yes, understandable. I get it. But at the same time, if you charge relatively the same rate per hour per man to a job, you should be able to pay at least somewhat decent benefits. I know for around here, non-union guys with health insurance and stuff like that, a lot of shops are doing exactly what the union does. It's 100% covered.
I sure hope you're right, because again, we've said before, we said at the start of this, we're not we're not pro-union, we're union guys, but we're not against people being non-union. Work your work, make your money. I'm glad those companies are out there.
Yep.
But
do your thing.
Does seem to be some benefits one way or the other. We're also a little biased because we're in it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I've talked to people recently. So I've got a brother-in-law who's been working non-union his whole life. And for him, it was back in the day, he was younger. I don't remember if it was brand new kid or kid on the way. Mm-hmm. Losing a day of pay every other week to go to school at that time for him to be in the union was a big deal for him.
Oh, that's a monster deal.
Yeah, he wasn't willing to do that. And then factor in what we can talk about a little bit quickly later is, or just bring it up now for that matter, the idea that you believe or are told, or it's a opinion that went around over the years, that you pay half your pay in dues, you pay 60% of your pay in dues. Like, a lot of people still believe that, right?
Not true.
Right, it's not true. We're also not leaning on shovels, We're also not working 8 hours and dropping our tools exactly where we stood and walking out the door. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
There's a lot of thoughts from way back in the day of, hey, this is how the union is, that just simply aren't true anymore.
Right.
Whether they were ever true.
Right. And I don't think they were. Maybe in some places. In some places. I'm sure a lot of those stuff actually have a legitimate background. It's definitely...
I'm sure back in the day.
The guys that I've seen leaning on shovels, if anybody wants to actually split hairs, it's city workers.
Yes. I've seen 6 guys standing around a hole and one guy directing the Mini X digging a hole, right? Like, you certainly see some of that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Are city workers unionized? I think it's city to city, right? I don't know about that for sure. But yeah, you do see some of that. And even back in the day, like, let's say late 60s, early 70s, where a lot of it was run by the mob in some of the bigger cities. Okay, sure. Was there a lot of no-show jobs?
Yeah.
Probably.
Probably.
Those days, that's 50 years ago, kids. Those days are gone. Like, the union won't let you coast through.
Yeah.
The way it is now.
Nope.
So this was the biggest number I saw on the pay and benefit differential, though. Some kind of defined benefit pension plan. Right. 79% of unionized employees had some sort of defined plan. 17% of non-union had something. Yep. That's a gigantic discrepancy.
Yep.
Now, even if if the rest of that percentage, all the way from 17 to 79, even if that was you paying every nickel of that out of your pay as part of union dues or something like that, the availability to even have that is crucial.
Right.
Most people are not, non-trade people are paying for that retirement themselves a lot of the times.
Yep.
Your company will kick in something once in a while, a few percent or whatever, right? But most people, they're putting part of their paycheck away to do that. That's no different than dues. When our dues goes into one of multiple pension plans or whatever, depending on how your local works, it's the same thing.
Yep.
They're just administering that for us. But so many people look at that and go, oh, well, they're taking all your money in dues. Yeah, they're not taking that much. It's a way smaller number than you think, and it's going towards stuff. They're not just taking that out from under you.
Well, and I'll give fourth wall break when it comes to dues.
All right.
I just paid my yearly dues for the whole year, $575. Man, that's what our dues are.
Not even half a paycheck.
No, not even close to half a paycheck.
Right.
Wow. Kind of close to half a paycheck. But
Close, right?
anyway, the deal is, then we pay dues on every paycheck.
Right.
We have working dues. And that's minuscule. I think that's what, $12 a paycheck,
Right.
I think is what it comes out to be. Or
It's
some
it's
stupid.
really small.
Right. But at the same time, is it the fact when it comes to the pensions, is it more the fact of, yes, as union workers, we get that done for us, right? We don't see that money. That money's taken care of by our benefits office,
Right.
right? And that's out of our paycheck before we even worry about it. Is it just guys that are not doing it, just their inability to budget for it? Or is it because they're not making enough money to be able to support their lifestyle that they need? I've been on both sides of that spectrum.
Yeah, that's not just specifically a trade or new union versus. That's just a budgeting thing.
That's just a budgeting thing. Right. That's an education thing.
Right.
If you're not educated on how to actually budget for a 401k or do a 401k or whatever,
right.
You're not going to do it. Right. You're going to use that money to live.
Right.
Right. And
especially early on in your career.
Right. When I started as an electrician, I was making $6 an hour. When I was a first year apprentice, I was making $6 an hour. Now that was 20 years ago, right?
Admittedly, right.
Admittedly. Now, when I turned out as a journeyman in non-union state, I got a pay bump from $11 an hour to $13 an hour. And I was fucking ecstatic.
Yeah, it's crazy how much that seems like at the time, right?
I was so happy. And then all of a sudden I was hitting $16 an hour and then $18 an hour. And I capped out before I left the non-union and moved. I capped out at $21.50 an hour. That I can honestly say is not even half what I get paid now.
Sure.
Right. So I was never able to save. I was never able to start a 401k because I had a young family, wife, couple kids, house, cars.
Right. $50 a week makes a lot of difference.
I didn't have the money. Yeah. $50 a week. It's $200 a month.
It's a lot.
That was groceries.
Right.
Right. And admittedly, I was living in a state that's one of the poorest states in the country.
It's true.
It's just how it works. But so my default is, with non-union, they get the benefit of most of them. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm 100% right. Most of the time when it comes to 401k, they have a company match 401k.
A lot of times, sure.
And guys, men and women, if you're in a non-union shop and you're doing the 401k, or if you're not doing the 401k, listen up. Company match, 5%, 6%, don't care what it is. It's free money. Take it. Take it and double your money. That's all there is to it. Make it an expense.
Right.
Give up your coffee, your Starbucks for that. Because at the end of it, when you're done, when you want to retire, that's going to get, you can buy way more Starbucks than that.
Oh, for sure. And listen, not to get into the math or anything, right? Like I've mentioned before, I used to work in finance and stuff when I was younger. You will not miss 50 cents an hour.
No.
But you'll see it in your retirement if you're consistent. And as you make more money, have fewer bills, plan, budget, all that stuff, you can make that $1, $2. Start early, start often. Yeah, John's absolutely right. That's a good way to go.
And being in the union now, yes, we have our pension, right?
Right.
I don't take advantage of the in-house 401k.
Okay.
I have my own 401k with a financial advisor outside of that.
And that's what you have to do. You decide what's best for you. Do you want to deal with the pensions that are part of your union or your company if you're non-union? Like, again, we're not trying to bag on non-union. We're just trying to point out there are some differences here. Yep. Everybody's got that option. But take advantage of what works best for you.
Yeah, but get educated about it.
And that's the crux of what I wanted to kind of talk about today, and we've kind of hit it already. Educate yourself about the differences, not what you believe.
Not what you believe. No.
Educate yourself in the differences. If you're new to the trades, or even if you've been in them a while and you have some staunch beliefs about union versus non, look it up.
Yep.
Look for actual facts. Don't go with what you heard, what somebody told you.
Yep.
Like, because I talk to so many people now, like, oh, don't you hate paying all those dues? I don't want to keep harping on this, but the dues one comes up a lot.
Comes up all the time.
It's not what people say. It's a very reasonable portion of your paycheck.
Yeah, because if we were paying that many dues, nobody would be in it.
Right. Nobody would pay
it. Wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah, 50 for that and then another half to the government. Nobody's going to do that. Like, if you think about it reasonably, it's not what people are telling you. And as far as, being lazy, man, if I'm lazy for 2 or 3 weeks, my company is going to replace me.
Yeah, right.
It's like any other place now.
Yep.
Now,
and we are replaceable. If not, we are more replaceable in the union than we are non-union.
Right, because
we are just a number.
Yeah,
in most cases.
There's the pool of employees within the union, and depending on your union, a structure of how you go and find another employee if you need to either replace one or get some more or whatever it is. That process is fairly streamlined within the union. It's not going out and hiring new people. You already got them on the book.
Yep.
That person didn't work out, or I need 3 new people. Call up 3 more, send them out.
Yep. It's very easily replaced.
It's very easily be replaceable, right? Personality, maybe not. Work experience, maybe not. But I mean, bodies, as far as that goes, yeah, that's certainly the case.
Yeah. If we screw up, we're replaceable.
Yeah. Don't believe the hype, folks.
Yeah. No. If we're dragging our feet and we're not doing our job, we are held to performance standards no matter what.
Right.
Even in the union, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We'll just get replaced.
Yeah. People believe it's the ultimate protection, and it's not.
Right. And the new guy will show up on our job before we're replaced.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah. You'll often see your replacement walk in a day or two ahead.
You'll greet him.
Right.
You'll shake his hand.
Maybe show him some of your job duties. Like,
right.
yeah.
Because you won't know until Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning that you're done.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Imagine that, folks. Imagine finding out you're training your replacement 2 days later.
Yep.
Which also brings up one last thing that I kind of wanted to get at specifically about this part of the dues and benefits and things like that. I don't have any facts of this, and I tried to call up this week actually and get some facts from a local place here. But it seems to me that the structure of the education that you get as a union member versus non-union, it certainly seems to be stronger and more coordinated within the union.
Ooh.
The day that we have we'll only speak for electrical, and I talked to a couple of carpenters and a tinner as well.
Okay.
There's structured every week, every other week, one night a week, 2 nights a week. There's a structured within the union of you have to, and the few non-union people I talked to, even though I'm sure there are cases where it's like that, it was more, hey, don't forget, you got to be studying for your test. The state test comes up when you get 3,000 more hours. It seemed to be a little more freewheeling. And years ago when I wrote my state test for electrical, there was obviously some non-union people there. So I thought this week, I called up the state office.
Okay.
Listen, I explained to them why I was asking and what I was calling from. Can you give me the percentage of people who pass on their first try or some other sort of information about union shops versus non-union, people who are going through the state test, just specifically in electrical? And the lady laughed and hung up the phone.
Oh, no way.
Because she had no idea who I was from Adam. I realized in retrospect, I was just a random person calling up asking for information.
Right.
I might go in and talk to somebody and see if they'll actually give this to me. But I do recall that the people that I knew were unionized people going through the JATC, which, sorry, I keep saying that, folks. That's the local electrical apprenticeship. If you're in the union, that's the apprenticeship school. I mean, we were banging through that test pretty quick. 2 hours, 2 hours 10, we were out, and I saw people struggling, and I didn't recognize them going to school with us.
Yep.
There's only one other local.
Yep.
Those were people who were non-union going through. I haven't heard anybody say, oh yeah, my company sends me to a tutor once a week, or I get a day a week or a day every 2 weeks to study.
Right.
You're just doing that on your own, right? Most of the time?
Well, the non-union guys, they do have a school. It's an EIC school.
Okay.
And it is one night a week if their employer puts them into it. It would be to their benefit that they do it.
Certainly.
It would help them a lot because I wrote my first test in South Dakota as non-union without any of that. I went to one weekend code prep school.
Okay.
Or test prep class for one weekend. Ran over calculations and stuff like that. But I will honestly say I had some great journeymen though, because it wasn't even, I had to ask the question. they were like, okay, so this is where this is at. Like that fourth year of my apprenticeship, a couple of the journeymen I worked with, they're like, okay, so let's look at this. Let's actually look at the code book here. This is what this says. You need to know this, right? So I think that's the other difference that we got. But they do have, there is an available school as far as non-union goes. And I think that's becoming more of a common thing for the guys to go into.
I think if they want to compete, non-union shops,
Yeah.
they have to educationally and training-wise keep up with what the union's doing.
Yep.
I'm not saying the union is the be-all, end-all here, right?
No, but they do need to take strides. And them educating, getting the code education is, if it's just merely a benefit for them.
For everybody.
For everybody.
Yeah. And you would, I'm sure there's companies that are doing that, and it does benefit them on that side of the coin. So you make a good point there. Like, I guess I didn't exactly think about it in that stretch, but yeah, you make a really good point. They obviously want their companies to be successful as well.
Oh, for sure.
Well, better trained employees will make for a better trained, successful company. So,
Yep.
But in my head, it just seemed like that was maybe because I knew the structure of how the unions do it as far as education goes. I just assumed maybe it was a little more freewheeling on the non-union side. Perhaps they are much more organized than I thought.
It used to be. I think now they're getting better.
Oh, that's good to hear, because I know I was looking at you'd be surprised to find out that the union rates, and when I say union rates, the percentage of skilled trades that were union members had gone down a lot in the last 20 years.
Yep. They have. I'm not surprised at all. Not surprised at all.
Yeah, I had, it was 20% down from 40 from 1990 to 2016.
Yep.
It's down another 5% since then. And I realize that as we talk about this, the financial elephant in the room, all right? Is it the opinion out there, and maybe a fact, not always, but sometimes, maybe even the majority of the time, I'll be willing to admit, that is hiring a union shop, especially on a bigger project, potentially going to cost you more because of labor rates and benefits and hours charge and things like that. That's the word on the street. Whether it's actually true or not is another case. I don't get into the financials with my company or other companies.
Neither do I.
But that's the way they seem to talk about it, as if, oh my God, union labor is so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Educated, professional, well-organized labor will always be slightly more expensive.
Yep.
And when they want to, and when I say they, companies who don't want to pay extra money, or organizations who are trying to bust up unions or not even let unions start,
right,
these are the things that they're going to say if they want you to believe that the union is a bad place to be or bad for the country or whatever.
Right.
That's obviously where they're going to go. You tear down the things that people care about the most. The benefits aren't good. They charge you too much in dues. It's too expensive to hire. Of course you're going to say that stuff, because you also don't want unions.
Right.
You don't want to be paying people a standard wage. Certainly not a standard wage above and beyond what you could pay a non-union shop.
Right.
Or any shop for that matter.
Right.
I found myself frustrated that still goes on now.
Right.
I don't like these old beliefs and opinions that are driving the union rate down in places. So take, for example, California right now. I looked it up. California has the lowest union labor rate in the country.
Okay.
By a bit.
Yeah.
Like, they were clearly number one by 4 or 5 percentage points, right? Look at how that state's doing.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I know every problem going on in that state doesn't have to do with whether they're hired, right? I'm not trying to suggest that if they all hired a union that California would fix itself, right? But a country that's having massive infrastructure and financial problems, ongoing, slow construction projects, things that take 3 times as long as they should. They said Los Angeles County has basically been under a perpetual state of construction for like 14 years.
Oh, wow.
With projects that get stopped or not complete because either they can't find the labor or they're unwilling to continue to pay the rate for the labor, and that's not even hiring union.
Right.
If you had a pool of unionized employees that you can draw from whenever you need more manpower, woman power, whatever you want to say, There's the benefit, buddy.
Right.
Non-union shop, got to go out and take the time to hire people.
Right.
You need union employees. You call up the hall and you take the next 10 off the book or 12, whatever you need. The percentages getting lower is not good for the country. It's bad because it lets bigger businesses and bigger companies and things. It's a race to the bottom as far as price and quality goes, because at some point the cost is cheap because the quality is cheap.
Yep.
And if you don't want to have a group of employees who are protected and educated and happy day to day in their jobs because they have things like benefits and pension and consistent pay.
Right.
Better employees, happier employees do better work and stay with companies more long term. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. And the wife and I have talked about this. If you pay your employees a decent wage, I'm not saying top dollar, but above the average,
Certainly.
a company can usually ask more from the employee.
And
the
will.
employee's more apt to be like, oh yeah, no, I can do that. I'll take care of that. I'll do that. You know, like when I got a pay raise and pay bump and I thought I was on cloud nine, right? They could have asked me to, I don't know, build a staircase and wire the moon. And I would have, right? Been like, absolutely, I will certainly do that. Thank you. And I think people have a problem with, like you say, the rate and the expense of well-trained quality employees. But I think what people don't realize is that even if you were to go non-union and do that, which is fine, but eventually, if you were to get rid of every union in the country, which very well possibly could happen.
That's what a lot of people want in the government.
Right. Get rid of all the unions.
Yeah,
It's very possible.
A lot of people want that.
Well, then guess what? Everybody's wage is going to equal out. The non-unions are going to come up higher. The unions are going to come down lower. And you're still going to be paying a high price, right? Like, yeah, there's going to be guys that aren't going to be able to find work. But
There's people who can't find work today.
there's people that can't find work today. And there's a reason why they can't find work, right? If you completely demolish a union, right? There's a reason why the union started in the first place. History will repeat itself.
Certainly.
Guaranteed. You take away, and I mean, let's look back at why did the union start? What was the big push? Because at one point, the union was the majority.
Oh, for a long
Right?
time.
There was thousands of unions.
Yeah, for a couple decades, the union was real strong. Yeah.
Right. So, but why? It's because guys were getting tired of getting shit on, right? Taken advantage of, not paid a decent wage, not taken care of, not thought of as a useful person.
Right. No holidays to be considered.
Right. They didn't care if it was Christmas Day. You were building a steel structure.
Right.
Right.
For no extra money.
Right.
Right.
They didn't care. So yeah, history will guaranteed repeat itself because people are, perfect example right now. You look at the state of a lot of the millennials that are in the workforce. They will not work for an employee that doesn't give a shit. They want to know that they are actually cared about and taken care of. They want more than just a 9-to-5 job. They want more than just a paycheck. Construction workers are no different. We are no different.
Facts.
We want decent pay for what we do.
Well, and it's like, as you say, you want decent pay, you want proper treatment, things like that. And again, there's plenty of non-union shops out there that are taking care of those things, who care about their employees.
100%.
But they have to.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the unions all dissolved tomorrow, if there's no competition, for lack of a better word, if you're now on your own, non-union with a shop, you as an individual have to go in, report your performance. You're at the mercy of management, whether you get raises or whatever extra time off or whatever. Yes, as you mentioned early on, there's some merit-based things that go along with that. But if there's no option for the person to go somewhere else, how long before we don't do raises anymore? We're on a freeze for the next 5 years.
Yep.
No, sorry. We expect a 50-hour week now.
Yep.
And we can't really afford for you to take 3 weeks off every year, so we're going to have to make that 2. I'm sorry, if you don't like that, you'll have to find another place, because that's a new policy, quote. There's the differences. I don't like that unionization has gotten less over these last few years, but it does keep the other companies honest. And again, if people were to do some real looking into it, get rid of some of the stigmas and old ideas that they had, I believe we'd see the union rates increasing. And if this podcast did nothing else, maybe we get some people at least getting into the trades, which is our focus, but also at least educating themselves on here's what the truth is about what you could get from a union shop versus a non-union shop.
Yeah, and then make a decision based on actual facts, not stigmas.
Not what you believe, not what you've been told, not what your dad or your uncle or your aunt told you.
Right, exactly.
Because if that was the case, this is something that a close friend of mine pointed me out just a couple weeks ago. People see a lot of this when they think about the trades and unions and stuff. They see a construction worker in their head.
Mm-hmm.
Unions are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think that way about the teachers union or the nurses or the cops or the United Auto Workers of America. For some reason, that's that fear of the union charging you too much or you're stuck or what. For some reason, that's just on construction workers. And if you think about it, nobody thinks about that with the other unions.
Right.
You know? That's the difference. It's a construction stigma when it comes to unions, not a union-specific stigma. And if you look at it in the big picture like that, I mean, I know occasionally they say such and such a union for the teachers and nurses are asking for too much or whatever, but not the old school stigmas the way they think of construction.
Do you think that's because we're in the public eye all the time? Because we're building a building that's making noise and we're doing road work.
That's part of it. But at the same time, we are, I believe, not perceived in the same light as people who go to and I know this doesn't count with like cops, for example, right? Who go into an office every day, a school every day. They're indoor, nice clothes, air conditioned. They're not thought of the same as we are.
Oh, no. That's a whole different conversation.
No, I realize that's different, but I mean, that's part of the thing that frustrates me about this is people say the union takes advantage of blah, 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 blah. They don't look at a teacher or a nurse and look down on that.
Right.
They're almost proud that there's a nurses union, teachers union, police union.
Yep.
I find that frustrating when they can differentiate. One is fine, but the other is not, just because they don't like the cost of construction or thing. I find it frustrating.
But they certainly do like the building that they're in and the car that they drive.
Right.
You know, because you wouldn't have that fancy car if you didn't have construction workers building the building that they're made in. Yeah,
which we will rant about on an ongoing basis, right?
Right. I mean, they like all the frills, but they don't like what it takes to get there.
Yeah, they'd sure love for that to cost less. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'd like it to cost more, so why don't we meet in the middle and keep it just as it is right now?
There you go.
With
Perfect.
A reasonable increase for inflation every couple of years.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Like, yeah, you want one thing and I want the other. Let's meet in the middle. And that's where we are right now.
Yep.
So
yeah, sure.
I find that part of it frustrating. I mean, it does seem to be the construction unions. And why it got that way? You're probably right. It's more of a visual, everyday public eye, cranes, construction, road work. I likely expect that is what it is. We're a visual trade more than a lot of other trades.
Yeah, we're making noise, we're making dust, we're making, it is what it is.
We're wearing high-vis vests. It's hard to miss us.
Yeah, we're cussing like sailors.
Right, yeah. The great audio from a comedian that somebody put to a meme where I drove by a construction site the other day and heard 37 curse words in 60 seconds. And I thought to myself, that's going to be a well-made building.
Yep.
That sums it up, right?
Yep. If you hear a construction site and you walk by a construction site and you hear, oh, darn, nope, that building's coming down.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry about that place. Darn doesn't get buildings built, kids. Fudge doesn't get buildings built. I can tell you that for sure.
Right. No, that's a great meme.
Yeah, no, I always like that one. So we've talked about pay scale and education and benefits and dues and some of those things here. And obviously educating yourselves on the differences, the true differences between union and non-union.
Yeah.
I started out by saying it. We've said it many, many times. We are not union, non-union here. We are here for all the trades. That's the idea of the podcast. But it's a reality of the trades. So we thought we'd bring it up to start the new year on an interesting note here.
Yep, for sure.
Be honest with yourself. If you've believed that getting into the union was going to cost you in whatever way, financially, time, restrictions, look into it. Do some real research and maybe think about the benefits that might be there for you. And if you look at it honestly and find out that, no, I'm happy with the position I'm in and the company I'm in, good on you. I hope you're getting a good wage for fair work in good conditions with a company who appreciates you.
Yep.
Because you can get with a company who appreciates you in all those same ways within the union, and then you can also be a union number where you're getting laid off as soon as the project's done. Those things are certainly there.
Yep.
Now, that's something we didn't touch on of, man, you lose your job non-union, you got to go find yourself another job.
Yep.
You lose your job in the union, you put yourself, I mean, if you lose your job legitimately, not if you ran a truck into a building or blew something up, right?
Right.
Legitimate layoff for lack of manpower needed or whatever.
Yep.
You get on the book and you wait for your next chance, and the union is there to help expedite that process. I also think that's a huge benefit of it.
Yeah, it definitely simplifies it. It makes things less stressful, I suppose.
Now,
I mean, it's just as stressful. You're not making money.
Right. Are you occasionally going to have to wait a bit if times are slow or there's a lot of people laid off? Sure, it certainly happens.
But find another job.
But also, and I can only speak for myself, and I had a young apprentice talk to me. Actually, I had a young apprentice's mother talk to me very recently about the fact that he kept getting laid off and was concerned about what he was doing wrong and things like that. He's always waiting on the book for a month or two or whatever. Like, those things do happen when you get laid off if there's a lot of people waiting, especially as an apprentice.
Yep.
Because we're in a spot right now where a lot of companies aren't hiring as many apprentices as they once did, just through what's happening with the economy right now.
Yep.
I can tell anybody listening, and if you're in this boat, and I'm really sorry to say this so frankly, if you're getting laid off a lot for one reason or another, and John can disagree or agree with me here, there's something about you that's a bad employee. You don't have to always be a bad employee. Ask your employer the next time you get laid off, or call one of them up and find out what you did wrong or what you were doing wrong and fix it.
Yep.
Because if you're getting laid off a lot, that's you. That's not the union.
Yep.
And if you're spreading that propaganda around that, oh no, I had to leave the union because I kept getting laid off. Yeah, sometimes that's a timing thing, and sometimes you'll have bad luck. But most of the people I know who took regular layoffs were regularly shitty employees.
Yep. Yeah, you're either lacking performance, lacking on the ability to learn,
right,
or be taught. You got a bad attitude. You're not getting along with people. Those are the primary things. What's causing you to get laid off? There's definitely a reason if it's repetitive. Now, if it happens to be, I get laid off every winter, that's kind of just construction, right?
It'll happen.
Yeah, we get slow in the winter. Here, this part of the country anyway, projects seem to slow down. So if you're getting laid off in the wintertime,
don't take that one to heart too much, right?
No, that's just kind of how it is.
Yeah, but if you show up on a project and you tend to be the first one or two people laid off, and the project is still ongoing, that's probably on you.
Yeah, there's usually a reason.
Yeah, so I know this particular apprentice whose mother called me because I was friends with his mother before I knew that he was in the trades. He's in a different trade too. Sam, if you're listening, it's not that you're a bad person in the trade you're in. I don't want to call it out so you know specifically, but you know who it is. Try harder, ask better questions, put a little more effort in. You'll see those layoffs get less and less frequent. But it's on you for having your phone out too much and trying to guess what they want you to do and not listening enough and not paying attention to school. I think you're great. Be a better employee. You'll have less layoffs, I swear. Because you're perfectly friendly. But sorry that I had to call you out for your mom calling me up saying, oh my God, what's going on? My kid keeps getting laid off. He's also in a very specific trade that has less members. Not just union, non-union. He's in a trade that just has less people by the nature of the work they're doing.
Sure.
By a lot. For anybody who's in the trades, you know exactly which union I'm talking about. His dad and uncle were both in the trade, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
That's an up and down sort of thing if you really get the joke. I only have one other quick thing, John, and then anything you've got to round this out, I would really appreciate. But on a bit of a tangent here, Forbes magazine, Forbes, fuck Forbes, fuck their whole magazine, fuck their entire media outlet. When I was looking up stuff for this episode, they are so hot and cold on the unions every 5 years. It's all about what the people, I think, who are investing in that magazine or have the ear of the editor or whatever. Fuck Forbes magazine. Come and try to sue me, motherfuckers. You are so hot and cold. 1 year, why unions are ruining this country. The next year, oh my God, we're missing the labor force in this country and things aren't getting built. Man, you're the problem, Forbes. Stay out of it. Fuck you. All right. Sorry for the rant. If you're interested, just look up Forbes. Anything related to the trades or construction over the last 10 years, they flip-flop every other year.
Oh, that's funny.
I fucking hate bullshit. Today is the biggest thing, media. So anyways, I'm sorry about that. But yeah, when I was doing this, it really pissed me off. I wrote it right in the bottom of my list here. Fuck Forbes and everything. Fuck Forbes and everything they're doing. Anti-union 1 minute and pro-construction the next. You can kiss my ass. Anyway, sorry, buddy. What else you got?
Nothing, man. I mean, the union, non-union talk can really kind of go on forever and ever and ever in a day. At the end of the day, it's like we said, be happy with where you're at, be happy for who you're working with, be happy with what you got. And other than that, everybody's going to do the same work. Everybody's going to do the same thing.
We're all in this shit together, kids.
It's
union
just
or
a
non,
shit
yeah.
show. Like in the construction trades, it's getting harder every year. There's things at play that are making our jobs tougher and tougher and tougher every year. The beef between union and non-union, it does really need to get squashed. We all just need to understand that we're just doing the same shit as the guy down the street. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Just because I believe that the benefits I gain from my particular choice are better, we're still all doing the same thing.
It's still the same thing.
Yeah. If I was a cop in a different district or a nurse at another hospital, we're all, you're absolutely right, buddy. We're all doing the exact same thing. And yeah. Yep. Where can, and hopefully there should be some feedback on this one, I would think. Where can people give us our feedback, John?
I really want people to chime in on this one. I don't care who you are. I don't care what trade you're in. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what union you're in. Even the nurses union, the cops union, anybody. I don't care. I really want people to chime in. Because this is something we will definitely revisit. We'll come back to. But I want everybody to reach out to us on Instagram at I Saw Podcast. Hit us up on our website. You can catch that at isawpodcast.com. And email us, isawpodcast@gmail.com. And you know what? At the end of the day, I'm going to pitch it. So just make sure you rate, review, and subscribe.
Please.
On our players. Let us know how we're doing. That does actually help us out. We need to know what we're doing or what we're doing wrong or what we're doing okay. So hit us up, Spotify, Apple.
Yeah, we
Amazon.
love 5-star reviews, but you can, contrary to popular belief, you can give us a 5-star review and still constructive criticism in the review.
Yeah. I would love it, just people being honest with their reviews.
Definitely.
You know what? That's more important to me than anything.
Yeah, we will get better at this, and we'll get better with feedback. We do have an episode coming up with that'll be specifically some revisits and feedback from some of the stuff we've got feedback from people as a review. Send us, please.
We're compiling
send us stuff.
it.
Yeah, thank you. I was stuttering there for a minute, buddy. Not even drinking. Yeah, we're compiling that because we want to have a whole episode about some of the feedback. So get in while you get the chance. And other than that, John, are we wrapped up? Can you think anything I missed today, buddy?
No, thanks for coming up with this idea, man. I do really appreciate it. It's an important conversation to have.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we had to touch on it eventually, even though I stick to what we said. We mean it. We're here for all the trades, union, non-union. We don't give any shit about that. We just wanted to have a quick chat about the fact that there's a few differences. Please keep listening. As John said, please rate, review, subscribe, hit us up on our socials. And until next time, thank you for listening. And as always, your work keeps the world working. Good luck out there, John. Thank you very much, buddy.
Thank you, sir.